Welcome to Coffee and Cybersecurity with Cyberpilot. I'm your host, Anders, and today I'm joined by Jonas Klærke Hejlskov.
Yeah.
You are a customer success manager here at Cyberpilot.
I am.
Maybe you will put a few words on yourself before I dive into what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a customer success manager here at Cyberpilot. I work with onboarding all of our new customers and ensuring they're getting the value for actually purchasing the product and helping them succeed, as the title actually indicates. So very focused on making sure that it is actually a success purchasing Cyberpilot and helping them with all of the experience that we do have here at Cyberpilot.
And I haven't invited you here to talk about our service and how you can be a success in that. But I think it's interesting to have you here because you do talk to a lot of companies and a lot of customers and a lot of people who work with security awareness training.
Yeah.
And this means that you have also stumbled upon a lot of misconceptions about what security awareness training is.
Definitely.
So today we're going to dive into 5 of the misconceptions that we see that a lot of companies have about what is security awareness training, how is it good, how can it be done.
Yeah.
We are not going to talk about our solution. We're going to talk about how you can overcome these misconceptions if you're working with security awareness training yourself out there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm glad you invited me along.
Perfect. But then let's jump into the first one.
Yeah.
The first one is making training events few and long. And that means holding a few very long security awareness training events.
Yeah, we could see this as like a yearly, like a seminar where you like gather the whole company together at one and then talk about everything from IT security, what is a good password, remember to update your computer, what is personal data, all subject covering in all at once. And the common idea is that you want to make sure that you don't waste people's time ongoing. You rather say, this is a one-time event. Please make sure that you're accessible on this date, and then you're covered. The misconception is that, for instance, that all people can attend. Not all employees will be able to attend at this one day. So assuming you're sick, you're off on leave, whatever, then what's going to happen to that one employee? Are they just not going to be secure or aware for a whole year? That is one unfortunate thing that could happen if you're doing it this way.
Yeah.
It can also be very much in the sense of, if you are not working with IT security as your primarily thing, then you perhaps think it's boring. So we're adults, we can't remember everything we are told at one time. So if you only remember, let's say 10% of what you actually been taught, everything else will fall away from you.
I think we've all tried that 8-hour seminar. You're pretty tired at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to school, when you have like a whole day where you have to focusing on one single topic, and it can be time consuming. It'd be hard to keep the focus. And then perhaps you actually, let's assume that you're actually really interested in IT security, which we of course love, but perhaps you will be very knowledgeable and very aware at that certain time. But what will happen in a month, or 2 months, or 3 months, then you probably have forgotten something about it. And this is also one of the things with doing one event, is that you keep awareness at a high point, but only one time, and not doing it continuously, which is what we recommend to do.
Yeah.
And perhaps also splitting it up in smaller pieces. So instead of doing it once, you do it, let's say, monthly, and then do it not very specific and not very, this is the certain paragraph within the personal data GDPR regulations that you need to be aware of. Keeping it at a higher level, so you keep some kind of knowledge, and then doing it continuously, so you keep making sure people are actually aware of personal data.
Yeah.
In this case.
And I guess it's also in the name. It's about awareness. It's not about having one big seminar and then saying now you're all experts.
Exactly.
It's about creating awareness ongoing throughout the whole year.
Exactly. And if we're taking the personal data thing, let's assume that you receive an email We need to make sure you're knowledgeable enough to understand that it's personal data that are being asked for. Then we need to make sure you're actually aware enough so you focus on it, and then it drives a behavior where you ask your legal department or the DPO. We don't ask you to be the DPO based on awareness training. We're just simply asking you to be aware enough to actually do the right thing, and then ask the DPO.
Yes,
that's the person in charge.
Yeah, and I guess there's nothing wrong with having the one seminar. It just can't stand alone. If you have all the ongoing awareness training, then it might be kind of cool to have one day where you focus on cybersecurity a bit more.
It could be. It definitely could be. But yeah, the main thing is not to make it stand alone, because you kind of you have the pitfalls of people not attending, people losing focus, and people not being aware throughout the whole year, but only at that certain time.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I guess that was the first one.
Yeah, I think we covered it okay.
Also because we have to keep this below 30 minutes, so we're going to run through them a bit quickly, but people can always write us if they have questions about them. The second one is bulking topics by category together, meaning like it could be you just run a lot of phishing courses in 1 month, and then you forget about it for 3 years, because then you have passwords or personal data and stuff like that. This is something we see a lot of people do, because then they can say they did all they should do about phishing. But there's a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's it kind of follows the same thing that perhaps you have if you're looking at the misconception before. If you're only doing one big event with everything, it could also be that you're doing several events but only having one topic. Then you would make sure that this topic is on top of mind at that certain point. But if you then, let's say, 1 month later, do another topic and then another topic, if you never like come back, then in 6 months you will most likely forget it. So spreading it out is also very important. So if you're again talking about phishing, making sure that you're doing some phishing in the beginning and then coming back to it, let's say 3 months after. I mean, we can always remember school, like when we had one course and then you need to learn everything about that course, and then you probably forgot it if you haven't used it ever since. I mean, I'm not sure about you, but I can't remember everything from my courses at the university.
But I actually think high school is a good example. If you take it further back, then you didn't just have Danish for 3 months and then went to an exam, and then you had biology for 3 months. You had days where you had some Danish classes, some math classes, some English classes, some biology classes.
Definitely.
The next day, you also mixed it all together. So you always got new reminders of the same topics.
Exactly. A very good example of continuous awareness and spread out it and make it a repetition. So yeah, we see that people think it's like one and done deal about phishing. Perhaps doing it continuously but also like just bulking everything about phishing into once.
And I guess it makes sense, because if you're sitting and creating all your security awareness training out in the company, then you might sit at the desk and saying, now I'm creating something about phishing. And then it's easy to just get everything about phishing done.
Yeah, exactly.
But cut it up and spread it out.
Definitely a recommendation from us here at Cyberpilot, definitely.
Yes. I think that leads us to the third one.
Yeah.
And that's about thinking that training itself makes you secure. That if you implement security awareness training, then you're good to go. Everything is safe.
I mean, it needs to be something within the culture of a company, and you need to pair it up with other things than just making one awareness course every month. This doesn't mean that you are aware. I mean, it's a good starting point. But you need to pair it up with other things as well. It could be phishing simulations. That's another way of actually pairing it up. It could be actually also just communicating about it from like a leadership level. This is a focus point here in our company. Therefore, you need to take awareness training. We're gonna do some phishing simulations as well to make sure that you are aware. So it's much about the actual culture within the company, making sure that it's explicitly set. We focus on it. Could also be that you don't have, for instance, IT security guidelines. So perhaps people are very aware of phishing. They're much knowledgeable about it because they've taken a lot of courses on it. But if they actually don't know what to do about it, it's kind of like perhaps they are smart enough to not click on it because the course said, but
Yeah.
are they actually reporting it?
It's like seeing somebody robbing a bank,
Yeah.
but you don't know how to call the police.
That's a good analogy. Definitely, definitely. I was going, yeah, it's much about the culture. I was more about going it for like a garden. You can put in a seed of awareness training, but you need to maintain it. You need to water it. You need to talk about it and make sure that it actually grows. So that's like the culture within making sure that you're not only knowledgeable, you're not only aware, but you're also doing the right thing. So it can't just stand alone and then check mark.
Exactly. You need the whole organizational part to play along as well.
Definitely, definitely.
I hope that makes sense out there, that how you can also use it in your everyday life, because it also becomes kind of recommendation that are not so concrete, because I guess it depends on your company. It depends on where you are today and what you already have in place, what you can do next, and what
Definitely,
you should do.
definitely.
But that leads us to the fourth one.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is that thinking that the training and its effects are totally automatic. Like saying, okay, now I've created all my courses and I've set it up in a way so people get it, and then I'm hands off, I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, a system can do a lot of things, but it can't do everything for you. So yeah, you've set up the courses, you're enrolling them continuously. You're trying to make sure that people are knowledgeable, they're aware. It follows a bit with the same as before, where you need to talk about it, but you also kind of like need to follow up on it afterwards. So the system can send reminder emails, another system can push different courses to different people. If it's yourself, you can send a PDF to people, but who reads it? Who actually does something about it? The system can't do everything for you. You need to be hands-on with this, and it's in order to again foster the good culture within the organization. It's very much reference to the one before, but people tend to think that just enrolling it will make everything okay, but no system can stand alone.
Exactly.
We need to have people on it. We're not that far with AI yet.
No, and I guess it's just, you need to follow up, and I think it goes really, like you say, hand in hand with the one before.
Yeah.
Because it's also a cultural thing. I think we all know that if somebody says you need to do something, but then you feel like that the people who said it doesn't actually check in to see if it's done, or follow up with how is it going.
Yeah, who's even in charge of this?
Who's even in charge?
We get a system email, but we don't know who's in charge of it, and
then my motivation would go down pretty quickly and saying, okay, but if nobody cares if I'm taking this anyway,
yeah,
then why take it?
Exactly. We're all busy people, and we're also everyone has something else to do than IT security, or not everybody else, because some are actually hired as IT security experts, but the normal employees within an organization, they have other stuff to do. And so if it's at a culture and organizational level is not prioritized, and the system just sends you stuff, you will probably do something else. Because if you're in sales, you're not. You need to be targeted on actually achieving your budget and not how many courses you took. But if it's a priority from the sales manager as well, it's definitely.
Exactly. So in an ideal world, you would talk a lot about why it's important, so people are motivated, but maybe also showing the company some progress. How are we doing? What's going well? And giving people a high five when they complete the courses and do the training and whatever it could be.
Yeah, I mean, we do see people that are actually like doing a lottery for people who are actually taking the courses, or like, for instance, mentioning on the monthly newsletter, or when we have an all hands, remember that IT security is at top of mind at this company because we care about it. So again, a cultural thing, making sure that you actually follow up, communicating about it continuously. That will foster the good behavior and the good culture we want to see.
Exactly. Basically trying to make it fun.
Yeah.
And it leads us to the last one
that
we see out there in the companies. And that is spending too much time trying to customize the training for specific people in the company.
Yeah. I mean, I do get the point that you're in charge of security culture, and you're looking at your organization and you'll be like, this is somebody who needs that kind of training, and this is another one who needs that kind of training. But the fact is, it can be very time consuming for you to pinpoint each individual and also know what they need to No, because you're not 100% sure perhaps where their knowledge level is at.
No.
So, it can be very time consuming. And what we often see is that as long as you are making sure people are aware of, again, let's just say GDPR and personal data, if they understand what is personal data and they're aware, it's perhaps not that essential which kind of knowledge they have. Are they more skilled in what is sensitive personal data, or how often should I delete personal data? It's much more valuable that they're actually just aware of personal data, they are knowledgeable about it, so they can act upon it.
Yes.
So instead of spending a lot of time on making people-specific courses or department-specific courses, make sure that everybody gets some kind of general training. It will also give the upside of actually having people talking about it, which again foster the good culture that we talked about before. So instead of having people from sales doing one thing and then they can't talk to people from purchasing on the other, making sure that everybody gets the same training, it actually lifts the organization at like a whole organizational level, and targeting everybody with the same knowledge.
Yeah. So you don't need to make courses telling explicitly what Jacob has to do.
No.
Just saying this is the thing, and then if you are in a situation where you can say, oh, there's something about personal data here, then they know where to ask for help.
Exactly.
And then they can be told what Jacob needs to do.
Of course. I mean, sometimes we do see that, some courses could be a bit more relevant for some people than others. It's okay. Nobody will be harmed of taking a course within stuff, but of course you need to make sure you're not wasting people's time.
Yeah.
I do believe that sometimes in an organization there is a need to actually differentiate the training. I do think that's a need sometime, but we just see a lot of people focusing all too much on it instead of just being very general about it. It could be that, let's say, NIS2 is very up at the moment. I mean, that's for leadership mainly. So I get why you would roll that out to a leadership team and not to everybody.
But don't overdo it.
Exactly. Don't overdo it. It also complicates things for you, making it way harder to manage. And as we said before, it's just not always worth the time.
Unless you have all the time in the world. But we know there's not a lot of people who got that.
Unfortunately not.
No.
And especially also the employees. They don't have all the time in the world. So that's also like, it's a good wrap up, I think, like making sure that don't bulk everything up in one and never be spreading out the knowledge. Spread out the knowledge, small pieces, then people be aware of it, acting upon it because they're knowledgeable about it, and then making sure it's a cultural thing. Never just think the system can do everything for you, making it a priority within the organization. And then lastly, for your own sake, don't spend a lot of time on individualizing the training.
Exactly. You can spend your time better elsewhere.
For an example, following up and making sure the culture is there.
Exactly.
Oh.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But I guess that was it.
I think
Unless
so.
you have anything else you want to...
No, thanks for having me. It was fun.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And then, see you all out there. Remember to click subscribe if you don't want to miss another episode.
Thank you.